On a freezing Christmas Eve in a forgotten corner of Phoenix, a young boy named Elijah Carter risked everything, his safety, his future, to pull an elderly stranger from the jaws of a deadly gas leak. But when the sun rose on Christmas Day, what happened next left the entire neighborhood in stunned silence, forever changing the course of Elijah's life. This is the story of a single moment of courage, a spark of hope in a community worn thin, and a revelation that no one saw coming. The December air was sharp, slicing through the cracks of the aging windows in Elijah Carter's small apartment. At 13, Elijah sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his worn-out sneakers, their soles patched with duct tape. Outside, the faint laughter of children echoed, a rare sound in a neighborhood where hardship clung to every corner like dust. Phoenix wasn't supposed to feel this cold, but the chill seemed to mirror the weight in Elijah's chest. Tomorrow was Christmas, but the holiday felt hollow, overshadowed by unpaid bills and the constant hum of worry that filled their home. "Dinner's ready, Elijah," Clara Carter called from the kitchen, her voice warm despite the exhaustion etched into every syllable. The aroma of canned soup and day-old bread drifted into Elijah's room, a testament to Clara's relentless effort to make ends meet. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses by day, stocking shelves at night, to keep them afloat after Elijah's mother, Chloe, left years ago. His father was a ghost, never part of the picture. Clara was all Elijah had, and he was all she had. Elijah slipped on his sneakers and joined his grandmother at their small kitchen table. Clara, her gray hair pulled into a neat bun, wore a tired but genuine smile. "Smells great, Nana," Elijah said, forcing a grin. The table was set with mismatched bowls, and a string of multicolored lights flickered across the kitchen window, their only nod to Christmas. A faded artificial tree sat on the counter, its green needles dulled by time but adorned with ribbons and ornaments Clara had cherished for decades. "You didn't have to go all out for Christmas Eve," Elijah teased, trying to lighten the mood. Clara chuckled, her eyes crinkling. "Oh, hush. A little effort never hurt anyone, and this is Christmas, after all." They ate in companionable silence, the clink of spoons against bowls a quiet rhythm. But Clara's gaze lingered on Elijah, sensing the weight he carried. "You've been quiet today," she said softly. "Something on your mind?" Elijah hesitated, twirling his spoon in the soup. "Just thinking about next year. About how things might get better." Clara reached across the table, her calloused hand covering his. "They will, Elijah. You're smart, kind, and determined. That's more than enough to carry you far." Her sincerity warmed the room, momentarily drowning out the pressures that loomed over them. After dinner, Elijah cleared the dishes while Clara settled into her chair by the window, gazing at the. Elijah's heart pounded as the orange glow outside intensified. The hiss of gas mixed with the acrid smell of smoke, a deadly combination that screamed danger. Dr. Harris lay limp, his shallow breaths barely audible over the crackling sound creeping closer. "Come on, wake up," Elijah pleaded, shaking the older man's shoulder. There was no response. Sweat beaded on Elijah's forehead as he slid his arms under Dr. Harris, straining to lift him. The man was heavier than he looked, his body sagging against Elijah's smaller frame. "You've got to help me," Elijah muttered, his voice tight with desperation. Dr. Harris stirred, his lips parting. "Go, leave me," he rasped, his eyes half open. "No way," Elijah shot back, shaking his head. "I'm not leaving you here." Gritting his teeth, he adjusted his grip and began dragging Dr. Harris toward the front door, inch by agonizing inch. Every muscle burned, and the air grew thicker, stinging his throat with each breath. Clara's words echoed in his mind, "You're smart, Elijah. You've got this." He clung to them, pushing through the pain. But as they neared the doorway, a deafening explosion rocked the house. The stove erupted in flames, sending a wave of heat crashing through the kitchen. Elijah cried out, instinctively shielding Dr. Harris as burning debris rained down. The fire's roar was overwhelming, the room filling with choking smoke. Elijah coughed, his vision blurring as tears streamed down his soot-streaked face. "We're almost there," he whispered, more to himself than to Dr. Harris. The front door was just steps away, a faint promise of safety. With a final surge of strength, Elijah pulled them both through, collapsing onto the frost-covered lawn. The cold air hit his lungs like a shock, and he gasped, rolling onto his back. Stars peeked through the haze of smoke above, absurdly beautiful against the chaos. "Help's coming," Elijah rasped, glancing at Dr. Harris, who lay motionless beside him. "Just hold on." Voices murmured in the distance as neighbors emerged, their faces lit by the growing fire. Someone shouted for water, another for blankets, but it all felt far away, like a dream. Then, a voice cut through the fog. "Clara's." "Elijah," she cried, running toward him, her face etched with fear and relief. "Nana," Elijah whispered, his strength fading. The world blurred, sounds muffling as exhaustion overtook him. The last thing he saw was Clara's tear-streaked face, her hands cradling his cheeks, before darkness claimed him. Elijah woke to the sterile brightness of a hospital room, the steady beep of a monitor grounding him. Clara sat by his bedside, her face lined with worry but her eyes lighting up as he stirred. "Elijah, thank God," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You scared me half to death." His throat was raw, and a small cough escaped as he tried to speak. Clara handed him water, her hands shaking. "Take it slow, baby." "Help's coming," Elijah rasped, glancing at Dr. Harris, who lay motionless beside him. "Just hold on." Voices murmured in the distance as neighbors emerged, their faces lit by the growing fire. Someone shouted for water, another for blankets, but it all felt far away, like a dream. Then, a voice cut through the fog. "Clara's." "Elijah," she cried, running toward him, her face etched with fear and relief. "Nana," Elijah whispered, his strength fading. The world blurred, sounds muffling as exhaustion overtook him. The last thing he saw was Clara's tear-streaked face, her hands cradling his cheeks, before darkness claimed him. Elijah woke to the sterile brightness of a hospital room, the steady beep of a monitor grounding him. Clara sat by his bedside, her face lined with worry but her eyes lighting up as he stirred. "Elijah, thank God," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You scared me half to death." His throat was raw, and a small cough escaped as he tried to speak. Clara handed him water, her hands shaking. "Take it slow, baby." "What happened?" Elijah managed, his voice hoarse. "Dr. Harris, is he okay?" Clara nodded, her expression softening. "He's fine, thanks to you. The paramedics said you saved his life." "You're a hero, Elijah." The word felt heavy, almost wrong. He shook his head. "I just couldn't leave him there, Nana." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You could have been hurt or worse," she said, her voice catching. "I can't lose you. You're all I've got." Guilt and love swirled in Elijah's chest. "I'm sorry, Nana. I didn't mean to scare you. I just had to do something." Clara sighed, brushing his hair back. "I know, baby. You've got a heart too big for this world. But promise me you'll be more careful." Before he could respond, a nurse entered, her smile warm. "Good to see you awake, Elijah. Word of your bravery is spreading. The local news wants to interview you." Clara stiffened, her protective instincts flaring. "I don't know about that. He needs rest, not cameras." The nurse nodded. "Of course, it's up to you. But the whole neighborhood's talking about what you did. People are calling you a hero." Elijah glanced at Clara, unsure how to process the attention. "I didn't do it for that," he murmured. "I just didn't want anyone to get hurt." The nurse's eyes softened. "Sometimes, doing the right thing makes you a hero, whether you want it or not." As she left, Clara turned to Elijah, her expression a mix of pride and worry. "You've got a good head on your shoulders. Don't let this talk go to it. Remember who you are, okay?" Elijah nodded, his mind buzzing. Then Clara spoke again, quieter. "I'm so proud of you, Elijah. But promise me you'll think twice next time. Your life's worth just as much as anyone else's, maybe more to me." "I promise, Nana," Elijah said, squeezing her hand. Just then, a knock interrupted them. A nurse peeked in. "Elijah, Dr. Harris asked to see you when you're ready." Elijah blinked, surprised. "He wants to see me?" The nurse nodded. "He's been asking about you since he woke up." says he owes you his life. Elijah hesitated outside Dr. Harris's hospital room, his hand hovering over the door handle. What could the older man want? Elijah had acted on instinct, driven by a need to help, but now doubt crept in. Would Dr. Harris see him as just a kid who got lucky? Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. Dr. Harris sat propped up in bed, his face pale but his eyes alert. The oxygen tube beneath his nose didn't diminish the warmth in his smile. Elijah, he greeted, his voice steady. Come in, son. Elijah stepped inside, his hands fidgeting. I just wanted to check on you, sir. Make sure you're okay. Dr. Harris chuckled softly. More than okay, thanks to you. I owe you my life. Elijah shook his head, his cheeks flushing. I didn't do it for that. I just couldn't leave you there. The older man's gaze was steady, almost piercing. Not many people, your age or any age, would have done what you did. You showed courage most adults couldn't muster. The praise made Elijah's chest tighten, a mix of pride and discomfort. I just did what anyone would do, he murmured, avoiding Dr. Harris's eyes. Not anyone, Dr. Harris said firmly. Courage isn't about being fearless, Elijah. It's about acting despite fear. That's what you did. Silence settled, broken only by the heart monitor's steady beep. Dr. Harris gestured to the chair beside his bed. Sit with me. I'd like to know more about the young man who saved my life. Elijah hesitated, then sat, his voice soft. There's not much to tell. It's just me and my grandma. She works a lot to keep us going. Dr. Harris studied him, his eyes kind but sharp. And your parents? Elijah shifted, his gaze dropping. My mom, she left a long time ago. My dad was never around. Dr. Harris's expression softened, a flicker of understanding passing over his face. You've had to grow up fast. Elijah nodded, his voice barely a whisper. I guess. The older man leaned back, his gaze distant. I've spent my life helping people, or trying to. But there are things I wish I'd done differently. Patients I couldn't save. Relationships I let slip away. Moving here, I thought I could leave it all behind, but life catches up, no matter how far you run. Elijah listened, sensing the weight in Dr. Harris's words. I think we just do the best we can, he said tentatively. Even if it's not perfect. Dr. Harris smiled faintly. Wise words for someone so young. Your grandmother raised you well. She's everything, Elijah said, warmth spreading through him. She works so hard. I just want to help her. Dr. Harris nodded, his gaze thoughtful. She's lucky to have you. And you're lucky to have her. Family's complicated, but it's everything. Then, Dr. Harris's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Speaking of family. I recognized Clara when she came to see you. Years ago, I knew your mother, Chloe. Elijah's heart skipped. You knew my mom? Dr. Harris nodded, his tone careful. Not well, but enough to remember her. She was kind, strong, like you. Elijah's mind raced. What was she like? Why did she leave? Dr. Harris hesitated, weighing his words. That's a conversation for another time. For now, focus on getting better. We'll talk more when you're ready. The answer left Elijah with more questions, but he nodded, sensing it wasn't the time to press. Thanks, Dr. Harris, he said, standing to leave. The older man smiled. Thank you, Elijah. For everything. Elijah stood on the cracked sidewalk outside his apartment, staring at the crowd gathered around his door. The neighborhood had come alive since his return from the hospital, a buzz of voices filling the air. Casserole dishes clinked, and brightly wrapped gifts rustled as neighbors pressed forward. Mrs. Carmichael, the elderly woman next door, shuffled toward him, her arms loaded with a basket of baked goods. You're a true hero, my boy, she beamed. A real blessing to this neighborhood. Elijah shifted, uncomfortable with the attention. I just did what I had to, Mrs. Carmichael. But the crowd kept growing. Families he'd known for years, faces he recognized from the corner store, even kids he'd played with as a child. They brought food, clothes, and small gifts, each offering a gesture of gratitude. Clara stood beside him, her arm around his shoulders, her eyes glistening with pride. As the day unfolded, the neighborhood transformed. People who rarely spoke to one another lingered, sharing stories and laughter. A local reporter approached, camera in tow, but Clara waved them off. "He's been through enough," she said firmly. Elijah caught her eye, grateful for her protection. He didn't want cameras or headlines, just his quiet life with Clara. Later that afternoon, Dr. Harris arrived, leaning on a cane but standing tall. The crowd parted as he approached Elijah, his smile warm. "I wanted to thank you in person," he said, his voice carrying over the murmurs. "And I have something for you." He handed Elijah an envelope, his hands steady despite his frailty. Inside was a letter, a scholarship offer to a local STEM program, funded by Dr. Harris himself. "You've got a bright future, Elijah," he said. "This is just a start." Elijah's throat tightened, and he glanced at Clara, who nodded encouragingly. "Thank you," he whispered, overwhelmed. The crowd erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the street. For the first time, Elijah saw his neighborhood not as a place of struggle, but as a community bound by hope. That evening, as the sun set, Elijah and Clara sat by their little Christmas tree, the multicolored lights casting a warm glow. "I'm proud of you, Elijah," Clara said, her voice soft. "You reminded everyone what it means to care." Elijah leaned against her, the weight of the past days lifting. "I just want to make you proud, Nana. And maybe, find out more about Mom." Clara's eyes softened, a hint of sadness there. "We'll talk about her soon," she promised. "For now, let's just be here, together." Elijah nodded, feeling the warmth of her presence, the strength of their bond. The neighborhood outside buzzed with new energy, a spark of unity kindled by one boy's courage. On Christmas Eve, Elijah Carter risked everything to save a stranger, not knowing his act of bravery would ignite a fire of hope in a struggling neighborhood. But the real gift came the next day, a community reborn, a future unlocked, and a mystery about his past waiting to be uncovered. This is more than a story of heroism, it's a reminder that one small act can change everything, lighting the way for others to follow. What would you risk to make a difference?